Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live. Thank you for joining us. A little bit earlier when we started the program, you would have seen Peter Ndoro, and he did the opening or scene set, as we call it, from the Sandton Convention Center. And his discussion was all about broadcasting and digital migration. So he's got a panel of experts, second to none, including the Minister of Communications, Ms. Faith Muthambi. He's got the chairperson of USAASA, Mrs. P. Radebe. He's got the chairperson of SENTECH, Mr. Magatho, Mello, and the CEO of SABC, Mr. Hlaudi, Motsoeneng, and the Department of Communications. So there's a host of experts on his panel. Peter, good morning. How are you doing?
A very good morning to you, Sam. Thank you very much to viewers at home and also the many viewers that are watching on DSTV across the continent. 50 countries are busy getting the signal at the moment. And today, as Sam was saying, we're talking about the big switch. We're going digital. You're going to hear that quite a lot in the coming days. It's been a process and there have been a few hurdles along the way, but we're firmly on track and we're going to unpack that process with our panelists that I'm going to introduce to you shortly. You must be part of this conversation because it affects you. In fact, probably most of you, 8 million households, are watching this program on terrestrial television. And what that means is that in the not too distant future, if you switch on your TV, you're not going to get a signal if you haven't converted to the digital platform. And why are we converting to digital? Well, it's more efficient. And so what it does, it frees up spectrum, and we'll be able to use that free spectrum for other channels and also mobile services as well. So it's a great benefit to switch to digital. 17 June was the date that the world was supposed to go to digital. We didn't make that date. What are the implications of that? We're going to find out from Minister now and also our fellow panelists what's going to happen in the coming days, how your life at home is going to change as a result of this digital migration. And remember also you're going to need a set-top box, and you'll hear that word a lot. What does it mean? How does it work? Where can you get one? How much will it cost? All of those issues are something that we need to unpack. So please be part of this conversation at Morning Live SABC, #TNABizBrief. But let's meet our panelists now and start talking as we go digital. And I want to say thank you very much indeed and welcome once again to the Minister of Communications, the Honourable Faith Muthambi. Always a pleasure to have you. Welcome back, Minister.
Good morning, Peter, and good morning to the viewers at home. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Okay, next to you is somebody that people may recognize. He's now wearing the hat of Department of Communications DTT Program Head, Mr. Mokoetle. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you to your listeners.
Okay, and next to you we have Ms. Pumla Radebe, who's the chairperson of the Universal Service and Access Agency of South Africa. And we'll say USAASA going forward. A very warm welcome to you.
Thanks a lot, Peter, and welcome. Thank you, and good morning to the listeners.
Okay, and another familiar face that some of you will see from time to time, Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng, the SABC COO. Sir, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Peter, and our audience.
Okay, and then our last guest comes from SENTECH. It's the chairperson of SENTECH, Mr. Magatho Mello. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning to the listeners and the viewers.
Okay, so we've got a panel, we've got a lot of issues to get through, and I'm not going to go in any particular order in terms of the issues. I'm just going to fire a number of questions because there's some people, unfortunately, going to have to go to work shortly, and I want us to deal with the issues quite quickly. So let me start with you, Minister. You were in court for some time, and one of the reasons why this digital migration process has taken this long is because of these challenges. What does the decision mean? Because at the heart of it was this idea of encrypting or not encrypting these set-top boxes. Just explain to us why it was important for you to get this decision and what does it mean to the public?
Thank you, Peter. Allow me first to acknowledge the presence of our honorable MPs that are with us here. We have got Honorable Sedi, Honorable Kekana, and Honorable Sotesi. They are members of the Portfolio on Communication. Also, we are joined by the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Telecommunication and Postal Services, Ms. Mamuloko Kubai. We also have our colleagues from the various entities, include our honorable guest from the South African Communicators Forum, especially the manufacturer side. We said they must be part of this. There are reasons why we're saying they must be here. But nevertheless, I think I need to start up front, as Mokoetle said earlier, to say, over the last 4 months, there's a lot that we have achieved. You recall we assembled a team led by Soli, and then we managed to capacitate it such that then we form a project management team. And then also we form a DTT implementation task team, which was comprised by key role players and industry players. That include your regulator, USAASA, broadcasters, it's SABC, ETV, Mnet, and community broadcasters, and then the South African Bureau of Standards. That also included the device acquisition, USAASA, as you've indicated, including the South African Post Office. As you know, it will be responsible for distribution of these set-top boxes that you are referring to. But I must say upfront also to say, this project was handed over to us on the 30th of January this year from the Department of Telecommunications. And then I can raise a lot of achievements that we've made thus far. Number one is the issue that you are raising, the issue of the policy. We managed to make sure that the policy gets amended, and then it was submitted and approved by Cabinet on the 4th of March, and we later gazetted it on the 18th of March this year. Secondly, also, the DT regulations, you know, they've been finalized by USAASA, and then the standards. You know, there is a standard for DT that's called SENS 862, and the standard for DTH is direct to home, is called SENS 1719. They've been completed and they were published by SABC. Also, the IDTV standard is also on track as I'm speaking. Come 30th of September, that will be completed. The transmission network also is ready, 84% DTT and 16% direct to home. And then the chairperson of USAASA will share with the crew, the panel later on, to say they've also then allocated manufacturers. SAPO, as we discussed with them also, they are also ready. But now coming back to the issue of the issue that you have raised now on the court. You remember there was the judgment handed over by Judge Prinsloo with regard to that issue. In fact, what the application was all about, it was about declaring clause 512A, capital A, and clause 512BA unlawful and invalid, in which we are happy by the decision of the court to say, the court said there's nothing unlawful about that.
And those clauses were about the encryption?
Yes, that's the one that are talking about encryption. Because if you read the judgment as you go through in, the argument that was raised, because when we did this was to serve the poor TV household owning people, not for commercial reasons. And I'm happy in the judgment, the judge has eloquently said that, to say this decision by the cabinet in particular is in the best interest of the poor people of this country. So we are happy about that, because also it doesn't have any impact, because you remember it was an application that they requested it to be heard on an urgent basis. There's nothing that prevents us from proceeding with this rollout of the program. Hence, we are saying all systems are in place. We are busy now implementing the digital migration program. And it's not a one thing, like to say when you said earlier that people were saying come 17 June, the TVs, there was going to be a blackout like what they thought. You remember 1999 with the Y2K, people were saying computers are going to jam, all those other things. But we're happy because of the work that we have done. We have been moving around our SADC countries, wherein we manage all these issues, because the issue about June 17 was about spectrum frequency interference. And I think we've managed to deal with that process. Hence, you didn't see any blackout come June 17. We're on track. And then the beauty about our bilaterals with the neighboring countries was that then we are able to harmonize any issues, and then we form task teams and project management teams to make sure that we don't have any hiccups when it comes to the rollout of the program.
All right, okay. Mr. Mokoetle, I'm going to ask you one specific question. I know a little bit later on I'm going to ask you to share with us, there's a slide that you want to show and take us through. But perhaps very quickly, we've missed the 17th June. Minister has told us that, look, it's not a tragedy, but we certainly do have to get on with it. What is the plan, and how long do you think before we can say we're no longer an analog nation?
Well, actually, your question is in relation to the slide that I'm going to show.
Okay. Should we do this then? Because
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm sure your guys in the studio will be able to,
Yeah, so what I want to do, in fact, is that we want to see the slide. So I'm going to park that question now, and then we'll come back to you once the slide is ready. So if I could just then jump from you and then go to Ms. Radebe, the chairperson of USAASA. Now, your sole mandate is universal access, and I'm just wondering, in relation to this migration process, what's the role that USAASA has been playing?
Thank you, Peter. In terms of the mandate that USAASA carries as part of the team to ensure that we go digital, we are required by law to assist poor TV owning households by subsidizing the costs to acquire DTT, that is the digital terrestrial television, as well as the DTH, direct to home set-top boxes, as well as antennas, as well as the installation thereof. Therefore, to this end, to make sure that this happens and we make sure that we carry our mandate, one of the things that USAASA had to do and has completed by the 4th of March, as the Minister indicated earlier, is the fact that we had to define the criteria of identifying those poor TV households. We call it the qualifying criteria. And secondly, by the end of March, the board of USAASA had managed to appoint suppliers or manufacturers of these set-top boxes. And then you do know that SAPO will deal with the distribution thereof. And then we manage a database of the installers who are going to be doing the installation. So basically, USAASA carries the mandate to ensure that the identified poor households participate and benefit to go digital.
Okay, all right. We'll unpack that a little bit more as the conversation unfolds, but I want to turn to you, Mr. Motsoeneng. What's DTTV going to mean for the public broadcaster, very briefly?
Thank you very much, Peter. Very exciting. As I'm sitting here, I'm singing alone, you see. Because what is important is, the quality of the pictures that you normally see on the screen. Everything is going to change. People are talking about another small broadcaster somewhere. They are having the best technology. Actually, they don't have the best technology than SABC, because we have HD. Our own OB vans, they are in HD. But in our studio, we have what we call analog. But we're getting there. If you compare us and them, when it's rain, it's a mess for them. We are still on the terrestrial. We are doing very well. So, but what is also important for us, our own people, local content, is where we are going to have more channels within the organization. We have one channel in multi-choice that 24-hour news channel. We also have anchor channels. Those channels are an SABC channels. People who are misleading to say multi-choice is taking over SABC, I want to repeat, they are misleading themselves.
So what is the relationship that SABC has with multi-choice?
With multi-choice is partnership. Remember, we have what we call mass carry. It is a regulations from USAASA, not from SABC, from USAASA. Mass carry means the SABC channels, they must be carried by pay TV, not multi-choice. all pay TV, you know you have another pay TV. They are carrying those channels of the SABC. But when people talk, they talk about multi-choice. I don't know what is the reason between them and multi-choice. Maybe they know better, because it is not multi-choice only. But what is important, because we need to explain this, what is important about multi-choice is, we approach multi-choice. We said to multi-choice, you need to contribute to the public, because it can't be carried for free. You see, what is your contribution to the public? They said, no, but the law says we must carry you. I said to them, carry the public. I hear about the law. By carrying the public, how do you do it? Fund some of the content of SABC, which they are doing, including making sure that we still employ our own SABC personnel within the organization. You are one of them. Okay. And others. Because what is important also is that multi-choice partnership is to also make sure that we sustain employees within the organization, we create jobs, which we have already done within the organization. This country is struggling to employ people. And part of portfolio committee is make sure that there is sustainable jobs. Part of multi-choice partnership is to sustain those jobs within the organization. And I need to deal with this National Archives. I need to repeat, what is National Archives? I hear people who are very educated. They talk about this National Archives. I need them to debate with us. National Archives means everyone should have access to National Archives. Is that it doesn't matter, citizen, private sector, researchers, scholars. So those National Archives, everyone should have access, not multi-choice, not the top TV, everyone, including your BBC. Because remember, we have this trade exchange with other broadcasters. They use our own National Archives. We use their own National Archives. That is how broadcasting operates. And we have outdone Mokoetle here from performance as current leadership of the organization, because they could not raise any funds to sustain that organization. He was the CEO of the SABC, the COO of the SABC. When we took over, SABC is sustainable today. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure.
And I can't reject that. You know.
All right. Let's go to the chairperson now of SENTECH. And I'm just wondering, in all of this, these signals have to arrive at home. And I guess this is where you come into play. How are you going to do that? Are we ready?
Yes, we are, Peter. As you'll recall, SENTECH's primary responsibility is signal distribution, and we were tasked with a twofold responsibility, and we've done 178 sites that cover 84% of the population for the terrestrial coverage, and the other 16% of that will be via DTH. So as a signal distributor, where our primary responsibility is to make sure that the signal of the broadcasters reaches the population, as you rightfully pointed out, that part is ready. We are good to go. We've had to do 178 sites, and then there's 4 greenfield sites, but we're ready to go. SENTECH is good to go.
All right, so I'm going to explore things like signal interference and so on and so forth after the break, and we'll get a word from Mr. Mokoetle about the plan going forward post June 17. But we're going to take a quick break. Don't forget, at Morning Live SABC is the Twitter handle. Please start asking your questions, because this is a conversation that affects you. About 8 million households are going to need set-top boxes quickly. So when are we going to get them? All of that coming up after this.